You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
I am delighted to say we have on the line from maybe her property in the Bow Desert, I'm not sure about that, in Queensland, we have the leader and founder of One Nation, the political party, Pauline Hanson. Welcome to You Cannot Be Serious. Pauline, if I may call you that.
Of course you can, Sam. How are you?
Good. I
Yes.
should call you Senator Hanson, but we'll...
Please do not. No,
Right.
no, I don't. No, I don't accept that. My parents call me Pauline. I'm very happy with that. I answer to it every time.
Thank you very much. Well, now, this was written about you. You're a fiery redhead renowned for your garish wardrobe. So how is the fiery redhead from Queensland going as we enter Parliament, the next session of Parliament, next sitting of Parliament next week, I think?
Well, Sam, yeah, it does start next Tuesday. Sam, I think I'm getting more bolder and opinionated as I get older. You tend to say, oh, what the heck? You know, I've got something to say and I have an opinion and I'm going to express it. And I think people in general are more that way because through life become more informed. You've got nothing to worry about. You don't care what other people think. And you tend to say what's on your mind, and that's me.
And that is to a hell of a lot of people, very refreshing to have from a politician, particularly, mind you, Pauline, those outspoken or the fact that you speak your mind has got you into some controversy in the past. You've said some things about immigration or migration, and our friends who share the country with us. I think you were sanctioned for contentious comments about other people who live in this country, but that is your opinion, and I tell you, I'm sure you resonate with a hell of a lot of people in the community.
Sam, what I did was at the time, it was going back to 1996, I questioned the immigration numbers that we had coming in the country and the people we were bringing them in. Isn't it funny that since then, Philip Ruddock has admitted that there are certain people he shouldn't have allowed into the country. So because they're not similar in our views, our culture, and we've had a lot of problems with different migrants. And I won't pull back from that. To have a society that is going to be compatible, you have to have the same views and laws and customs, basically. But the majority of people that have actually migrated to Australia have become fantastic citizens, love this country. They pull me up all the time. And they say, Pauline, we totally agree with you. You know, because you're a proud Australian who wants to protect your country and its culture. This is why we've left our homeland, because we don't feel part of it anymore. But we are now Australians. And people here in Australia do not understand this because they've never left Australia to understand what impact is having in other countries, why they're wanting to migrate to Australia. So they think I'm a racist, in my opinion. No, I'm a proud, patriotic Australian who respects our culture, respects the people who've come here for a different way of life. But please become Australian. Respect our laws, our culture, and I'm happy.
Just before Richard asks you a question, I digress a little. You seem to be ahead of the curve because the man who is about to be the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Gert Wilders, I think has almost to a T copied your platform. If you heard his recent speech in Parliament, I thought, my goodness me, the world and Great Britain and France are experiencing the problems with a pretty lax political system about migration or immigration. If you haven't heard Gert Wilders, you want to actually get the last thing that he said in Parliament as he announced his Prime Ministership, you will think that he has stolen your handbook.
Gert has been around, I think, for the last 20 years, and I came on the scene in 1996. Sam, a lot of people say, I've moderated my views. I haven't moderated my views whatsoever. I'm still strong in my opinions. The fact is that the Australian public have caught up with me because we've seen the impact it's had on our country. That's why the Australians say, I've moderated. No, Australians have finally caught up with me because I I could see what was happening, the path that we're taking. And politicians were the ones who actually used to have a go at me on my policies, call them racist or different ones, because I was impacting the not only the coalition vote, but also the Labor vote. So therefore they had to criticise me and put me down purely to stop people giving their support to One Nation.
Pauline, you're really one of the first, politicians, not only in Australia but around the world, to kind of raise this issue of mass immigration. And obviously, we've seen many mainstream politicians, like Donald Trump, for example, Gert Wilders, who Sam mentioned before. That's what I wanted to say. I mean, do you feel in a sense, you're almost one of the first populist right-wing kind of politicians to appear in Western civilization in the 90s, like you did. I mean, you've almost led the movement in a sense. What do you think of that kind of thing?
Look, I came out and I voiced my opinion. I was ridiculed relentlessly for my stance, but I didn't back away from it because I believed it was right. And it's, do I take any vindication out of seeing I was the first one there? There's a lot of things that I've been the first one to come out with and make comments about, even multiculturalism, and I was criticised over it, and they say we're a very multicultural country, which we are. But at the end of the day, we are multiracial, but we must be Australians. As I said, respect the culture and the way of life and the laws of our land. But a lot of other countries now, and you find Germany, France, Netherlands, America, Great Britain, they're all now, correct. So they're all now saying multiculturalism hasn't worked. And I was saying that in my maiden speech back in 1996.
When you were the member for Oxley.
Correct.
Yes.
That's right. I was the first independent female to be elected to the House of Representatives.
And you got a lot of stick
and
for
then
it.
launched my party.
You got a lot of stick for it back then, didn't you?
I was hounded, absolutely hounded by the media. And I remember Tim Fisher came out one time and said I should be burnt at the stake. And I remember Tim Fisher saying that in a comment about me. Ridiculed for my association or ridicule of the Jews, which I never did, and all being vindicated now because it never happened. But everything that they could, they threw at me to actually denigrate me in the eyes of the public. And the only way I survived was because I travelled the country about 9 months a year, holding speaking engagements around the country so people could hear from me personally and not just what the media wanted to portray of me.
Now, just before we get on to why you might have been or should have been burnt at the stake, is there anything, so you had some contentious things to say about our Indigenous friends that live with us, and we've just celebrated Australia Day in some sort of fashion. Is there any? What have you said about? Just to clear that up, what is your stance on what you ever said and why you got? I think you got expelled from the UA. The United Australia Party, didn't you?
No,
you didn't. I'm sorry about that.
No. I only formed One Nation Party. That was initially when I joined as a member of the Liberal Party in 1995. I was endorsed as a candidate in November of 1995. And then 14 days outside the election after I had been nominated as a candidate for Oxley, John Howard was very nervous at the fact that he could have had a racist candidate. And all I did was I pointed out in a letter that I wrote to the local newspaper that I was calling for equality for all Australians because Robert Tickner, who was the minister under Paul Keating at the time, said we shouldn't lock up Aboriginals. And I said, well, what sort of society would we have? We treat different sections of our society totally different to others. If you commit a crime in society, you must be punished for it, regardless of your race or cultural background. And I called for equality. And this is why they got very nervous about it. It came from John Howard. I had to be disendorsed. Well, when they disendorsed me, that's when I went on to win the seat with the biggest swing in the nation because the public supported me.
Well, in that regard, you're a bit like Donald Trump because the more they have a go at him and the more they try and suspend him or sanction him, the more popular he gets because we have the social elites trying to push an agenda and the populism of both. Perhaps you, I'm not liking you to Trump, but the populism of you both is what resonates with the rank and file out there, Pauline, I think.
See, Donald Trump and I have a lot more in common than people would sort of think. We're both proud of our nations, and we've actually believe in manufacturing, protecting our borders, immigration. Also, we've both been on Celebrity Apprentice, but there's one difference is that I've been to prison, he hasn't.
So
Not
that's
yet.
true. But they've gone after him legally, Pauline. Do you think there's an interesting parallel there? And wasn't it terrible when they went after you legally? I remember when that happened. I mean, everyone was shocked. And I think couldn't believe it.
No more shocked than I. And I remember that going through the 6-week trial, of course, I had to pay back that $500,000 that we got back in electoral funding, which I've never received back from the Electoral Commission. But I spent 11 weeks maximum security. I had a 3-year jail term, non-parole. Anyway, it was only on my third appeal that the full bench overturned quashed the whole thing. And it was a public witch hunt. It was a witch hunt, but the public, about 90% of the public didn't agree with my jailing. But that was started by Tony Abbott, who got a trust fund together of 10 prominent Australians to deposit $10,000 each into an account to actually fund the case against me. Since then, he has apologised for it. But it was a time in my life I was absolutely, devastated with it. And I never thought I'd be found guilty on the evidence that was presented in court and people that actually lied on the stand. But it's another experience in my life, and you can't keep dwelling on it. You just move forward and learn by experiences.
And that was what they said was for election fraud.
Correct.
Yes.
And
you were vindicated entirely by the Queensland Court of Appeal.
Of course. And basically all they're saying is when I registered the party in Queensland, there weren't 500 members of the political party, 500 members of his support movement, and that was the guts of it.
Now, I said you were suspended from, you were never suspended from any political party. I got that wrong, did I?
No, I wasn't suspended. I was thrown out of the Liberal Party.
Oh.
I was disendorsed, so they threw me out. But I went on to stand as an independent in that election. That's where I won as an independent.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll take that as a subtle difference, Pauline. So I take you on advisement. What semantics? Now, who do you trust? Who do you trust in politics, whether they be from the right, the left? Do you have anyone that you think, well, that's a reasonable man or woman, that's a reasonable thing to say, and I think that they're being objective and not subjective in this really probably dishonest and corrupt thing known as politics?
I'm trying to think through everyone that I've sort of met in that place and who do I... And you know what, Sam, it's awfully hard. You see, I see people who sway with whichever way the wind's blowing. Yeah. I see people who just say what they need to say to keep their seats and don't upset the apple cart, because they won't get endorsement next time around. And one Labor member there has been there for quite some time. Labor all voted for the Voice. They were dead set, all supporters of the Voice. Do you know that after it went back to Parliament, after the Voice referendum, he called out in the hallways behind the chamber, Pauline, you were right. Everything you said about the Voice, you were right. And
you wouldn't like to name that person, I presume?
No, I'm not going to. Just in confidence, and it's no benefit to me to do it, and I'm not going to do that. But that's what frustrates me is that I see people say one thing and do another thing on the floor of Parliament. The only one that I truly trust who stands by their morals and principles and is my other colleague in Parliament, Malcolm Roberts.
He's
great,
a man
of integrity. He is full of integrity, and he's so straight. And I've got a lot of time for Malcolm.
I only ask this absolutely, this just a genuine question. You were the member for Oxley, then you, before you started or founded One Nation, tell me if any of this is correct, you were in the Liberal Party, then the United Australia Party, and then you founded, did you not, One Nation in 2014. Is any of that correct?
No, completely. Right.
Completely not, that's not right.
No. Oh, I joined the Liberal Party in 1996, August of 1996.
All right. It was a year
I became the candidate in the November and I was disendorsed in the February. Anyway, but I won the seat.
Yes.
After I won the seat, then I actually formed my own political party which is One Nation, in 1997. I launched it in April 1997, One Nation. Now, when I had a falling out with the party because David Oldfield and a couple of other members elected to Parliament as One Nation members from WA and David Ettridge tried to take over the party from me. Okay, so
now just before you go on, Pauline, this was what I'm very sorry. I've got this written down. It says One Nation 1997. I thought, no, that couldn't be right. But the reason I was getting onto that is, did you think, do you regret recruiting did you get the wrong people to back you in your initial foray into politics? And did you think that those people tried to exploit you before you realised what was going on?
Sam, I don't regret it. You can't turn back the hands of time. Now, the fact is there was no one else. At the time, we worked extremely well together as a group. But, you know, with the three of us, David Ettridge and David Oldfield.
Why did they try to take the party over, Pauline?
Because they had their own egos and what they did, not only that, quite a few others, and I'll tell you who they were. It was Graham Campbell, Noel Crichton-Brown and Ted Rain, who was part of it from Victoria. They all, and with John Pasquarelli, who was then my chief of staff, they all wanted me not to form a political party, but then stand an independent movement and just used me as the figurehead. So here they thought this woman who had no idea about politics, come straight out of a takeaway fish and chip shop, that what would she know? We know better than what she does.
Well,
so they wanted to manoeuvre and manipulate me, and I told them all to go to hell.
Well, besides me getting the dates wrong, I reckon that's just about what I said, that you recruited or had the wrong people, got into bed with the wrong people who had ulterior motives that were not in your best interests. Yeah,
but this is a group of people prior to David Oldfield and David Ettridge and forming One Nation. If I hadn't done that with them at the time, there was no one else. It doesn't matter what you do. You know, it's about you have to get to know people. Okay, it's something over a long period of time. Even to this day, people I've worked with me because they get their nose put out of joint because I'm very hard in my views in a lot of ways, Sam, but I expect loyalty and I expect respect and people who are competent and doing a job. If they can't, they're of no benefit to me. I'm only as successful as the people I work with. Well, it's a team effort.
Donald Trump has had a few people who formerly worked for him turn against him as well. I mean, do you think this is part of because there's been a constant attack upon you. You seem to have been somebody in the Australian political scene who just wanted to speak up for Australians, for real Aussies. And, you've just been constantly attacked for this for over 25 years. And it seems like they've even gotten to a couple of your advisors, maybe in the case of the one Sam was mentioning before.
It has been, but see, these people all thought they knew better than I. And like I said, I was very green in politics, but my life's experiences and things that I've done in my life has given me a sense of understanding of a grassroots Australian because I still consider myself a grassroots Australian. So when I look at an issue, then I say, how do I genuinely feel about that? It's not about whether I'm going to get an extra vote. It's not about that. It's to be a politician, I'll put it this way, you have to be a problem solver. You have to have vision for the future. And a lot of people lack that. A lot of people are just yes people and just to go along with it because they don't want to upset the apple cart and they don't want to stand out in a crowd.
It's authenticity. So, I think you have a certain authenticity that resonates with people. I know I've spoken to people about you and, people just say, you say what you think. A bit like Sam does sometimes.
Yeah. It's, and that's what people find refreshing. They may not agree with me all the time. This is what one fellow on the plane said only about a month ago. He said, loud, we were just waiting to get off the plane. And he was a couple of seats back and he said, Pauline, I've got to tell you this. He said, I don't always agree with what you say. He said, but I respect the fact is that you believe in yourself, what you're saying. Yeah.
So have you ever heard some of your male counterparts referred to as bald-headed and drab dresses as opposed to fiery redheads and renowned for their garish wardrobe? What What I think that's sort of half a compliment to be a fiery redhead.
I've got no problem with my red hair, but the garish wardrobe, I'm always getting complimented on being one of the best dressed females in the floor of Parliament. The only thing that I've been outlandish is when I wore the burqa into Parliament. I think that threw a few people. Maybe they're talking about that one.
Yeah, maybe. That was a good one, wasn't it?
Now, you're going to, whether really directly or indirectly, the world is, this is only me, so is going to hell in a handbasket at the minute. In every corner of the globe, there's conflict and contention and controversy going on. So you're going to have to deal with, I don't know what your opinions are on the climate, electric vehicles, renewable energy, Palestine and Israel, the ABC, critical race theory, which is going into the schools. You're probably, there's so much on everyone's plate these days that it's hard to know where to start.
I've spoken about all these topics you've just raised on the floor of Parliament, and I will continue to speak out against it. I cannot believe the way the world's going, Sam, and it just frustrates me, it angers me, and this bunch of idiots out there. And why I say that is that we as Australians, the future of our nation lies in each and every one of our own hands. And if you don't stand up and say something or take an interest in politics and know who you're voting for and why you're voting for them, you're the only ones to blame. You know, we're on the cusp of possibly losing our control over our own country. And I honestly believe that. We've been manoeuvred and scammed with climate change to head down a path that's destroying our prosperity, our future, the cost of living. We've got a class war going on at the moment as well. There's transgender crap that's going on, excuse me, but it is,
sport,
and it frustrates me. That's happening at the moment. I tried to get a Senate inquiry up into gender dysphoria, which was not supported, and this was only giving parents the opportunity to speak about what's happened to their own children. We're allowing children under the age of 18 to have life-changing operations that it's destroying their lives, ending up like vegetables, just destroyed, locked away in their bedrooms. With the woke identity is just ridiculous. We can't even identify. A lot of people can't even say, honestly, what is a man or a woman? They shut down with the whole lot. You know, EV vehicles, people don't understand. They can be a death trap as well. They're not the answer to the future. We've been lied to about this climate change, and only 97% of carbon dioxide is from natural sources. Only 3% from humans, and we're less than 1% of that 3%. So
crazy, isn't it?
So as you would be aware, there's plenty of people that are diametrically opposed to what you say and what you think, and that's the political nature of the system that we live in. But have you been able to quantify what are the main things that you say that your opponents vehemently disagree with? I've read it, believe it or not, I've read the main points, the bullet points of the Constitution of One Nation or the Manifesto or whatever you like to call it, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find people of good faith would say, I can't find a hell of a lot wrong with any of those things, but people rip the party and you apart for. People are not objective these days. It's so subjective to be the follower of a particular mainstream political party that people's reality of what's going on in the world is completely lost.
Well, it is, Sam, and the problem is that these kids are being brainwashed in the educational system.
Yep.
So critical thinking, you mentioned it before, it is. Do you know, and then we've got to be apologetic to the Aboriginals or people going out there protesting, this is Aboriginal land, always is, always will be. No, it's not. If you feel that way, then I suggest you hand over your land to the Aboriginals who feel that way, because they're not getting mine. I've worked for mine, and I was born here in this country. You know, there's so many problems. People are too lazy to research and to understand. So they listen to the last person that they spoke to, or they don't research to understand the facts and the science behind it all. They don't believe the government would do the wrong by them. Governments, I don't trust them and their policies, their legislation, because too many are manipulated by the unions or big business or the UN, and we're being controlled by that. Unless we get fair dinkum people on the floor of Parliament who actually have this country at heart and the people's welfare at heart, nothing's going to change.
Well, you seem to
and
have,
that's what I'm fighting for.
You could start the MAGA movement, Make Australia Great Again, Pauline, as a pleasant idea. You could buy the same.
Sam.
You could buy the same hats, the same caps, MAGA.
Well, I tell you what, Sam, it might be a good idea because maybe you can help me, because people out there just need a good shake-up. They really have to start thinking for themselves to understand common sense.
It used to be the Liberal Party would say some of these conservative things, but it seems like they've seceded the floor, and that they buy this climate change nonsense, and they buy into a lot of this kind of woke politics, which you often wonder. I mean, not completely, obviously. And it seems like that One Nation, yourself, and Malcolm Roberts are two of the people who only actually will stay up and say the truth.
Well, we present the facts to people. Before I go on voting on legislation, I like to get the full facts, and I do my research into it, so I'm making the right decision on behalf of the people. You see, people have put their faith and trust into me because I'm making decisions for their future and their well-being, so that's why it's very important to me. I'm not going to get up and say something that I don't personally believe in or believe in the facts that come with it, and this is why I've raised a lot of issues. But like I said, too many gutless politicians in our parliaments who are only there for their own survival and the pay packet. They shouldn't be in Parliament. They're useless, absolutely useless.
So before people listening to this think that we are just here giving you a sweetheart platform to push your propaganda, and we're not challenging you on anything you say, I can only ask you about what your opinions are about things. I have asked you who disagrees with you and on what basis. If Mr. Dutton, I think he's the leader of the opposition,
yes.
If Mr. Dutton wanted to try and win the next election, could you tell us what the difference between the northern states' politics is and the southern states' politics is, particularly Victoria, because we have been under the tutelage or the reign of the most corrupt and dishonest government probably in the history of the world for the last 4 years down here, the Andrews government. And I'm just wondering, what is the difference, in your opinion, between North and South's politics?
The North and South politics, what's happening in Victoria is you're being controlled by the media. So the media never took Daniel Andrews to task, and the same as they don't take Anthony Albanese to task as what they did with Morrison or any Liberal leader. The media has been come through a system where they're being brainwashed in the educational system again. They're all coming out as lefties. The media also is different to what it was 20 or 30 years ago. These were journalists who researched, did their job. The media today are lazy, and most of them are left-leaning, pushing their own agenda or bias. As I said at a university one time when I was doing lecturing, or not lecturing, but I was invited as a guest speaker to them, and I said to the media, you can either make or break a person on how you put that article across. I said, all I ask of you is present the facts, let the people judge me. It is not your job to put your own opinion there. And that's what I said to them. And that's too much happening these days. We're not getting the truth put forward. That's why the people are being controlled by the media, and especially ABC. That's not a fair and balanced program at all. And that's where people are only getting what the media want them to hear.
Why is there no conservative show on the ABC? I mean, obviously it's meant to represent, at least, the majority of Australians, and every talk show on there is left-leaning. I mean, there's not a single conservative host on the entire network. And same with the SBS, as a matter of fact. I mean, couldn't we have one?
You wanted to rename it the Patriotic Broadcasting Commission, didn't you?
Me, I never said anything. What I'm going to be moving, because the Australian Broadcasting Commission bill is coming up, is I wanted actually to be funded by individuals who want to actually go on and watch the ABC. I'm fed up with the taxpayer funding it to the tune of $1.1 billion a year just for the ABC alone to get this biased rubbish that they put across to people. And I think that let them stand on their own 2 feet like any other commercial station, same as SBS. SBS was started up in the early 80s, and that was for the Multicultural Society. We don't need to fund them to the tune of $300 million a year to that. Let people go and fund it themselves if they want to watch it, or let them commercialise, sell their advertising like commercial stations do, and let them stand on their own 2 feet. If we're going to get this biased all the time, I don't want my taxes to go towards it.
Now, when you became the member for Oxley, Pauline, I presume you had to divest yourself of the fish and chip shop, or was it a conflict of interest to have a business while you were in Parliament? And if so, did it have Pauline Hanson's fish and chips, and is that sign still on it? Because the person who bought it, I think, should be paying royalties to you.
Oh, Sam, that's so funny. No, there was no conflict of interest. Actually, I still had it for a year after I was in Parliament. And I worked the shop, and sometimes when I'd finish in Canberra my parliamentary week, I used to go in there and work on a Friday night and help their staff out. So it was a thriving business, but no, I just couldn't cope and deal with everything and deal with the running the business as well. So I sold it in 1997. And so anyway, but we've got a surprise coming out, and that we're going to launch a fish and chip van.
What are you doing?
So I thought, well, you're the first, Sam, to tell you this. We've got a van, quite a large van, and we're going to take it on the road and serving fish and chips. So we haven't done to launch yet.
Beautiful. You're back.
Hang on now, Hansens Mobile Fish and Chips, and you're going to you're going to drive the bloody thing.
Yeah, well, I'll be in there cooking.
Will you?
Don't worry. With the fish and chips. But what I'd like to do, we haven't sorted out where to go first, but I'd like to go to some area around Brisbane, in the outskirts of Brisbane, people who are doing it tough, to actually pull up and give them a free feed. And
free?
Taste it. Yeah, on the first one, yes, it's got to end up paying for itself, but to make the potato scallops and fish and chips and stuff like that, but just to give people a taste. Those people who are doing it tough out there, that's what we want to do. And it's got our cartoon series on it, so that's another thing that we're doing. Our cartoon series has been a complete winner. It's informed people about politics. We've got the younger generation coming on board.
Yeah,
a lot more people understanding politics. So it's and sometimes our cartoons will get 1 million views a week.
Tell us about your cartoon series. I've seen it online. It's fantastic. It's really, really funny, and it has it sends up a lot of other people in Parliament, right?
Yeah, it does. Actually, we're going into our 3rd year, and it's been very, very successful. And we fundraise for that. We don't sell it to anyone. It's there for anyone to view it, and we fund it through our sale of rum or our gin. So that's what we've done. So we've got our own Please Explain bottles of rum and gin. So that's what funds the cartoon series, and been very successful. A lot of people pull me up with that, and they've learned about politics.
Where can you find that online? Where can you find it? On Facebook?
It's on YouTube.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Yep.
On the One Nation website, onenation.org. So that's for the cartoon series. It's on YouTube. Please Explain. So very successful.
So now I'm just getting back to the fish and chip van. Have we, an aspiring van trader? Have we got the thing? Have you got a van? Could someone supply a van? I'm not sure if they'd be game to supply the van. Would it be a good promotion?
Got the van.
Have you?
No, we've got the van. No, it's all ready to go.
Is that sponsored?
We had it custom made. No, had it custom made.
Wow.
Specifically built to my specifications. So it's got cookers, a hot plate, everything in it. So Aussies, there you go.
Aussies are going to get to taste your fish and chips again. That's the good news.
Yeah, look, I had it for 10 years, Sam, the shop for 10 years.
Yep.
And from working it myself about 80 or 90 hours a week, and I only had one girl on a Friday night for 2 hours, Saturday night for 2 hours, and I worked the rest of it by myself. I still had 3 children at home at the time, the youngest one 2.5, single mother. And then I built up the business till I had 6 on a Friday night and 3 every other night.
What was the big seller? Was it the 2 flake and minimum chips, or what was it when you were in the business? Or did they go for the luxury items like the King George whiting with yes?
Sam, the secret was that I actually, for 8 years, I went down to the markets in Brisbane. I did my own buying at the fish market. So I had up to 12 different varieties of fresh fish, prawns, crabs, oysters, whole fish, everything. So it was having that fresh fish. And I made my own potato scallops, so I do about 700 to 1,000 potato scallops a week.
And for the record, it's going to be, was it going to be called Hansens Chips, or what is it going to be called? Or haven't we got a name for it yet? What about the fiery redhead sweeps through town?
I don't know what they put on. It's the cartoon series that it's already on the van.
I see. Yep.
So it's a van about 4 metres, 5 minutes long. So it's a big van.
Have you got your heavy duty licence to drive the thing?
No, someone else is going to do that. It doesn't need the heavy duty licence. Sam, you have to divest your chores and duties to other people. I can't do it all myself.
Exactly.
And I know my limitations.
Now, I don't know how, you just mentioned you have 3 offspring. Do you not? You just mentioned that, I think.
4 children.
4. So I don't know what age they are, but how are they handling the infamy or the famous name of Pauline Hanson, Senator, Queensland Senator for One Nation? How do they handle life as they? I don't know if there is a Mr. Hanson, or it says here. I don't know if you want to speak about this, and don't if you don't. But it says you were married to someone called Mr. Zarwowski or Zagorski, but I don't know.
Oh, that was my first marriage. That was in 1971.
Right,
he was
good.
Polish. He was Polish immigrant. He came out here with his mother, 6 years of age, from
who are the father
Europe,
of your kids?
Poland. So anyway, I don't know if he's still around, but the second one, he died years ago.
Yep.
So I've been really a single mother
your chips,
since
did he?
1987.
Right. Good on.
Don't be cheeky, Sam.
No, that is cheeky. I take that back, Pauline. Senator Hanson, I do take that back. So how does your family, your immediate family, your friends, how do they handle? I can resonate a little with this, with my kids and me. But how do they handle the Pauline Hanson brand?
Look, my kids, when they were in boarding school, the girl was 13, the boy 15. They really had it tough at that time. One time the police had to get her out of their school from threat to her, so they got her out of school. Of course, I had federal police protection for 18 months, 24/7, everywhere I went, even on the property, because the threat was against my life.
For political reasons?
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, my views. So anyway, I had that. But the kids are proud of me. We're very much on the same lines, way of thinking. And my friends are very supportive. Those ones that aren't, they're not my friends, and you just associate, as you go through life, Sam, it's no point being around people you're going to argue, debate with and everything. People have differences of opinion. But all my friends, my close friends, have remained strong to me and been very good.
Now, Pauline, thank you so much for speaking to us. It is very refreshing to speak to a politician, particularly who speaks their mind. You are a successful Australian, whether people agree with you or not. And if people think we've given you an easy ride, I can assure you that if we had someone on from the complete polarised opposite of politics, we would just be as convivial and congenial to them. We'll ask them questions we think the public want to know the answers to, and we hope we've done that with you. And we do wish you well, and thank you very much for joining us on You Cannot Be Serious, Pauline Hanson.
It was an honour.
Sam, can I just respond to that?
Go ahead.
You've asked me the questions. The people have listened to your program. They have to make up their own minds on how I've answered your questions. Not about whether you gave me an easy ride or not. Is that how did they respond to the way I've answered your questions on their behalf? So let people judge me themselves.
Not sure how I could ask you the questions I want to ask you in any other way. As I say, we'd do it to whoever we spoke to. I'm a supporter of yours, but that shouldn't be reflected in the way we've conducted this chat. So I appreciate it. All the best to you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on, and nice to talk to you, Richard. Thank you very much.
Nice talking to you as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.